So look, I played the alpha for Vindictus Defying Fate. It's open right now if you want to hop on Steam and try it out for yourself, but let's talk about it. I had a lot of fun. For those that don't know, Vindictus was the OG action MMO, or at least it was for me, coming out in 2010. And it was really something, you know, to have action, combat, physics, and even grapple mechanics. That was a big deal for an MMO back then, and in some ways, the level of interactivity hasn't really been surpassed, and it's still not going to be surpassed in Defying Fate, sadly. But the story in Defying Fate is pretty much the same as the MMO, beat for beat so far, and it was a great nostalgia trip fighting gnolls again. Now, before we get too far, does it actually run? I didn't have many frame drops, though I noticed a couple in cutscenes. Some people are really struggling, and it seems to be a 50-50. The game is beautiful, but it is currently heavy, and it's really in need of optimization, and that is the first and most important thing they need to address. But with that out of the way now, we can move on and talk about the rest of it. I'm going to keep the story brief. Essentially, you are a country at war, and you join mercenaries that are tasked with protecting the townsfolk. Unfortunately, the gnolls are encroaching on your land, and they have broken their truce, which then ends up with a full-scale battle between knights and gnolls, with you at the center. The story doesn't get much further than that in the alpha, but of course, there is an overarching reason for why the gnolls are acting the way they are. Sadly, you might find that you don't care for the story very much, and this was a distinct problem in the original MMO as well. I don't understand why the devs do this, but they skipped the prologue, so you start in the town and you just, you know, start meeting everyone in the town and talk to them. This is boring. The town is beautiful, love to look at it, but there is literally nothing to do other than to go from one quest marker to the next. You can't eavesdrop on a conversation in passing, you can't break into houses and loot them, you can't go to the tavern and talk to the locals. There is just nothing fun here, and it's literally the first thing you do. Now, coming from the other direction, and this is a bit of a holdover from the old MMO, when you talk to people, you get a portrait and a text box pop up, which is oddly immersion breaking in a beautifully rendered 3D environment. You know, it just makes sense in an anime phone game, but it just seems a bit odd here because you are used to seeing more from this style of game. So yeah, you get introduced to everyone, you don't care about anyone, and you are supposed to be learning that these are different vendors, but you don't because you don't know what you need them for yet because you haven't done anything. Personally, I think they should make it so that you get out of the town as soon as possible, and the reason why is because once you start moving through the world with your story companion, that's a million times more engaging. The battle with the gnolls is so badass. So yeah, the story that is told on the road is good, and that does link back to the town at certain points, but anything to do with the town that is not a main story cinematic is incredibly tedious and boring. It was this way in 2010, and it is still that way today, though it looks prettier now. Holy shit, I forgot about the character creator. Okay, so you can choose between Lan, dual-wielding swordsman, Fiona, sword and board, Karok, giant tank, and Delia, babe with the bastard sword. So which do you choose? You choose Delia, the babe with the bastard sword, duh. Well, that's what I did at least, and apparently everyone I matched up with did as well. With that said, later on in the game you can swap to any character of your choosing, so it's not a big deal. From there you can adjust a great deal of sliders. Don't worry, it's Korean, so you actually have good options, and the boob slider lets you go from 0 to ludicrous. This is a game for the people, by the people. Now be aware that Vindictus is the type of game where you will earn and buy cosmetics and hairstyles. You earn them at quite a clip through the alpha via currency dispensed through gameplay and the battle pass. Remember that this is an alpha and nothing here is representative of how good the monetization will be because it's all subject to change. The only thing we do know is that there will be a battle pass and daily tasks. Okay, but is the gameplay worth it? It depends. So you have a light and heavy attack, different combinations make different combos. You also have special abilities on long cooldowns, and then you have a dodge. And if you're playing one of the female characters, then you also have a parry. Karok can circumstantially ignore some attacks, and Lan is Sonic, he just moves a lot. At first instinct, most people are going to say Souls-like, sort of, though on the spectrum of Dark Souls to Devil May Cry, it sits somewhere near Black Myth Wukong, but with far less depth. It feels nice to play, the hits felt good, the parries felt good, the moves look cool. It can be challenging, but it's not punishing in the same way as Souls games can be. I think what Defying Fates is trying to do is provide a middle ground of gameplay that is familiar to anyone that has played a Souls game but has roots in more combo-based action games. This is just kind of the logical conclusion of Elden Ring being super popular and being onboarded to the gaming zeitgeist. Now when you compare this to 2010 Vindictus, this is somewhat of a downgrade. You can't pick up boxes and throw them, you can't grapple enemies, characters are missing missing core defining features that highlighted their identity. Everything about the combat is flatter and more templated now. So if you are an original Vindictus fan, you are probably going to be a little disappointed at the state it's currently in. That said, if you are a Batman Arkham City Andy or a Ubisoft enjoyer, this is more than enough depth. I am fine with the style of combat, but I would like the following additions. I would like to be able to pick up and throw physics objects again, I would like to grapple again, and I would like there to be some sort of pro-con identity for each character. For example, Delia used to be able to break all of her armor and she would be practically naked, but she would move a lot faster. But, you know, you'd also take more damage. As it is now, I think there isn't a ton of difference between the characters, and to be frank, the special moves are on these long cooldowns and they kind of just get dumped on bosses because they aren't distinct or available enough to say, okay, yeah, I'll use this one defensively, I'll use this one offensively, I use this one on hordes of enemies, I use this one on bosses. The choices of when to use which cooldown is kind of arbitrary at the moment. So yeah, that would be my wish list of changes. I'm also fully aware that you probably need room for expansion, but I can see how people might get bored with the seeming lack of identity within the abilities and the characters. There are 2 areas to explore in the alpha, and once you clear them, you can then go back and respawn the bosses to basically farm them for resources. Vindictus is designed for multiplayer. Even through the story, at a certain point you get to assign an AI partner to tag along. I assume that you can play with a friend at a later date. Here's to hoping. I think there's a bit of a missed opportunity in level design here that might be dumbed down because of the AI partner. For example, it would be nice to be able to use one person to pull a bunch of mobs into a trap and then the second player cuts the vine to let the logs roll or something like that. As it is now, your cooperation is purely let's hit things together, which is fine for the majority of the time, but I think that if you have the partner as part of your core gameplay, you should use it meaningfully. Now, once you clear the first area, you also get access to matchmaker-based monster hunts with groups of 4 Delias and only Delias. Gamers are based. You have this guy and this guy. Look, cool bosses. I had fun. I wish I could play with my friends, but I assume they are testing matchmaking. The same criticism applies here. The only cooperation really is don't get hit when the monster swings at you. When the monster is not swinging at you, hit it lots. And yeah, it works, but it just makes the 4-player experience kind of trivial. The only reason you want 4 people is because the boss has a lot of health. So I'd like to see an improvement here personally. Like, I don't know, maybe you can tether each leg with 4 harpoon guns from the corners of the arena to put the boss in a staggered state to make the group work meaningfully optimal but not essential. That would be great. Overall, I think there is a good base to work with here. There are certainly some people that are going to be upset with the identity of Vindictus, but I think the devs are in too deep to remove the Souls-like aspects. I think they should just work on adding a few OG Vindictus flavored mechanics on top of it. If I'm being honest, I get a little frustrated with these free-to-play models. I could easily see myself coming back to a game like this for a long time if I could just buy the game and not have a battle pass, but it is what it is. I suspect that when the game releases, I will enjoy it for a month or so, and then the grind of dailies sets in. I'll have the revelation that I'm wasting my time, and I'll move on only to check back once a year for a special event. That's where I think this is headed, but hopefully I'm wrong. Anyways, that's it for me. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you played the alpha, tell me how you're going with it. Also, everyone thinks the game is about the Oracle, but it's actually about this particular barmaid, and I will marry her. Deal with it.